Joe Joseph here for Freedom Link Radio, and I want to address a subject tonight that has me miffed, and that has to do with the mainstream media trying to keep Ron Paul down, to suppress him. And that's really what it is, folks. They're doing their damnedest to suppress him, and it's not working, and they are seething with rage over it. If you saw Sean Hannity's post-debate interview on the Fox News interview last night, I mean, they're bringing up stuff that's been settled now for decades with Ron Paul. And I got news for you. He is the last best hope this country has as far as saving it. And I know that there's a lot of naysayers out there that say, oh, you know, he's a shill, he's a sham. You show me evidence to the contrary that Ron Paul is a shill, that he's I don't even want to think about it right now because it's baseless. It's absolutely baseless. Ron Paul has been nothing but consistent, and you stack up his record against any other congressional or presidential candidate out there, and I guarantee you will not find anybody with a track record like Ron Paul. So to prove that tonight, I want to bring up a subject that the Washington Post had said made him a loser in the debate, and that is Iran. Now, Ron Paul is a person that believes that a country's sovereignty is sacred, that it's their business. What they want to do is their business, and if we need to go and do anything, we need a formal declaration of war from Congress, which has not happened. You know, and we have to be in legitimate danger, which has not happened. So I'm going to give you a couple of clips. The first one is from about a year and a half ago, and it's a speech that he made on the House floor regarding Iran. And then I'm going to segue to the debate last night, just so you guys can see the consistency that he brings to the table. And I hope that it slams it home for anybody that has any doubt about Ron Paul. And if anybody has any comments, feel free to comment, or you can email me, thefreedomlink@centurylink.net. Our show airs Tuesday and Thursday evenings from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Sundays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, and that's on the Orion Talk Radio Network. You can see us at www.oriontalkradio.com. Thank you, folks.
Mr.
God
Jones
bless you,
of North
and have
Carolina.
a pleasant evening.
For what purposes, gentleman from Texas?
With unanimous consent that I take my 5 minutes at this time.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, the motion to instruct on the comprehensive Iranian sanction bill was passed overwhelmingly. 400 to 11. 11 individuals said that this was not a good idea. I was one of those 11. I'd like to explain why I think the sanction bill against the Iranians is very, very dangerous and not well thought out. Sanctions are very serious. Sanctions are literally an act of war. When you prevent certain goods and services going into a country, it's like a blockade. There's no advantage to us to do this. The sanction bill literally says that any country that trades or sends oil into Iran, we will no longer trade with them. So if Russia sends in oil or gasoline or refined products, or China does, we are theoretically under this bill not to trade with them. Can you think of anything more chaotic than having a trade war with China at this particular time? So often, well-intentioned foreign policy procedures backfire, they have unintended consequences, and there's too often blowback. Today, unbelievably, we are engaged in so many places in the world, and we can't afford it. Our foreign policy costs us $1 trillion a year to operate. We're in 135 countries. We have over 700 bases throughout the world. We are engaged in military confrontation in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. We're bombing in Yemen, and as well as having surrogates fighting in Somalia. We're flat out broke. The policy is driving our enemies into the hands of the Chinese, and here we are looking for another war. It makes no sense whatsoever. The conversation today was nothing more than war propaganda on why we have to get ready to bomb the Iranians. There is no proof according to our CIA, that they're actually working on a nuclear weapon. Now, I'm sure they would like to. Why not? Everybody around them have it, so it would be logical that if they're surrounded and threatened and intimidated with all their people around them, why wouldn't they want one? Well, of course they do. But others have it. They have never been found in violation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Never. And yet, Pakistan, India, and Israel, they don't even belong. And they're our friends, and we give them money. Pakistan, they get support from us. They have nuclear weapons, and they have been known to send nuclear technology to North Korea. So the whole process makes so little sense. The language today was used that, well, we have to go in because of the weapons of mass destruction. They're going to have missiles, and they're going to attack us. It's identical to the propaganda promoting in 2002 in 2001 before we attacked Iraq. So the same process is occurring, trying to generate all this excitement about the need to use hostilities. Now, a lot of individuals vote for sanctions that are basically anti-war, and they don't like the military option, and they think this is an alternative. I think that is deeply flawed thinking, because sanctions lead to hostilities. And if you commit to the sanctions, you're really committing to the next step. The sanctions of the 1990s and the year 2000, the sanctions on Iraq, eventually led to the hostilities and the war and the invasion. So what did that invasion of Iraq do? Did we find any al-Qaeda there? No. We found out that Saddam Hussein wouldn't allow the al-Qaeda there. No weapons of mass destruction. We've turned the country upside down, hundreds of thousands of people injured and killed. We have suffered devastating problems from this. And what has happened? We've turned the government of Iraq over to the Shiites, who are allies with the Iranians. So that whole policy has actually backfired. So now what we're doing to the Iranians is driving them into the pockets of the Chinese. The Chinese are pretty good capitalists these days. They work hard, they produce, they sell us certain goods and services. We pay them, they save their money, and they're starting to invest. So they're investing around the world in natural resources. And what are we doing? All we're doing is trying to take over the world with natural resources so we have control of oil. This is a mercantilistic idea. It's ancient, and it takes you back to almost colonial times. So this, I think, shows that our policies are deeply flawed. I sure would have wished this vote would have come out differently, and I warn, this was a very dangerous vote.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Without a shadow of a doubt that Iran will take a nuclear weapon. They will use it to wipe our ally Israel off the face of the map, and they've stated they will use it against the United States of America. Look no further than the Iranian Constitution, which states unequivocally that their mission is to extend jihad across the world and eventually to set up a worldwide caliphate. We would be fools and knaves to ignore their purpose and their plan.
Congressman Paul.
Obviously, I would like to see a lot less nuclear weapons. I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I would like to reduce them because there would be less chance of war. But to declare war on 1.2 billion Muslims and say all Muslims are the same, this is dangerous talk. Yeah, there are some radicals, but they don't come here to kill us because we're free and prosperous. Do they go to Switzerland and Sweden? I mean, that's absurd. If you think that is the reason, we have no chance of winning this. They come here and they explicitly explain it to it. The CIA has explained it to us. It said they come here and they want to do us harm because we're bombing them. What is the whole world about the drone being in Iran? And we're begging and pleading, and how are we going to start a war to get this drone back? Why were we flying the drone over Iran? Why do we have to bomb so many countries? Why are we have 900 bases, 130 countries, and we're totally bankrupt? How are you going to rebuild the military when we have no money? How are we going to take care of the people? So I think this wild goal to have another war in the name of defense is the dangerous thing. The danger is really us overreacting, and we need a strong national defense, and we need to only go to war with a declaration of war and just carelessly flouting it and starting these wars so often.
Speaker Gingrich, is Congressman Paul...
And the point would be, can I respond to that? Can I respond? And the problem would be the greatest underreaction in world history if we have an avowed madman who uses that nuclear weapon to wipe nations off the face of the earth. And we have an IAEA report that just recently came out that said literally Iran is within just months of being able to obtain that weapon. Okay. Nothing could be more dangerous than the comments that we just heard.
All right, 30 seconds.
There is no UN report that said that. It's totally wrong on what you just said.
IAEA report.
That is not true. They produced information that led you to believe that, but they have no evidence. There's been no enrichment of these bombs.
If we agree with that, the United States people could be at risk of our national security.
So I'd like to finish. If she thinks we live in a dangerous world, she ought to think back when I was drafted in 1962 with the nuclear missiles in Cuba. And Kennedy calls Khrushchev and talks to him and talks him out of this, and we don't have a nuclear exchange. And you're trying to dramatize this, that we have to go and treat Iran like we've treated Iraq and kill 1 million Iraqis, and 8,000 some Americans have died since we've gone to war. You cannot solve these problems with war. You can solve the problems if we follow our Constitution, go to war, only when we declare the war, go in and win them and get them over with, instead of this endless fighting and this endless attitude that we have enemy all around the world.
But as President, I stand on the side of peace.
Thank you.
For the American people.
We've been pretty liberal with our friendly ding. Mr. Speaker, you have been openly critical of the United Nations. For example, on the topic of Palestinian efforts for statehood at the UN, you said, quote, "We don't need to fund a corrupt